Week 2 in the National Football League. Some things went the way we thought. Some things went haywire. Let's do it.
You got a team, here's a word of the wise. You want to dominate your league? Go to football, guys.
Football, I'm living in a fantasy. Football, got everybody mad at me. Football, cause every game I had to win. Football, I gotta be a champion. Football, I'm living in a fantasy.
You've got to be a champion, and we are here for you. It's the Audible, Cecil, Lammey, Sigmund, Bloom. Before we jump into the games, Bloom, it was like a confirmation week. Hey, some stuff from week 1 happened again. And then it was like, what are we watching week? I cannot believe week 2. Every year we say this, but every week it's the same. It's like, oh my God, this league.
Yeah. See, I think one of the main takeaways I got from this week is when we're wrong about a team being bad, that is when we think a team is going to be bad and they're actually not bad. That's been a lot of the big profit opportunities so far this year. When we look at some offenses, Baker Mayfield, Matthew Stafford, we look at some offenses where we built into the price, this is not going to be a good offense. And it is. And it's a good team and a respectable team. And there's other teams not feeling so respectable or respected and shouldn't be respected right now.
Yeah, shouldn't be. And, we'll see what's going to happen here. I'm sorry, I'm watching the game there as well as we continue to go through these games, and we start in this one. Okay, Atlanta. Okay, I'm excited. You're excited. We all should be excited. The Atlanta Falcons, 25-24 over the Green Bay Packers. Let's start on the Packers side. Jordan Love, 3 touchdowns, no INT. Sounds like a good day. Jaden Reed, 4 for 37, 2 touchdowns. Sounds like a good day. Dontavian Wicks, 2 for 40 and a touchdown. Nobody started these guys. You started Romeo Doubs, 2 for 30. You started Luke Musgrave, 2 for 25. Looking for answers at the running back position. And A.J. Dillon, 15 for 55. Like, that's it. So you saw some stuff from Green Bay you liked, but not enough to like it for a win.
Yeah, not enough to get a win. But overall, Cease, you have to feel good if you're the Packers, right? Jordan Love looks really comfortable in this offense. There were no Aaron Jones, no Christian Watson out there. You see, especially, it's the same pattern with Jordan Love throwing the 3 touchdowns. Where he comes through, he makes good reads, he sees the field validly, delivers the ball on target, and he should only get better with Christian Watson, hopefully soon a healthy Aaron Jones. And there's a mess. I mean, NFC North is a mess. NFC South is a mess. And these teams were pretty close. Makes sense. Jaden Reed, the second rounder, already getting a couple of touchdowns. Like seeing his number called in those key situations when Watson's back, there's not a lot of value there. Wicks shrugs off a tackler for a nice touchdown. So they've got some pieces to work with. And again, we thought Green Bay's pass offense, all these young players, geez, their best deep threat gets hurt. Aaron Jones gets hurt. There's not going to be much there. Yes, there was. So we're revising what we think about this. I'll tell you what we're not revising, what we think of A.J. Dillon.
Yeah.
He's not actually very good. But Emmanuel Wilson, Patrick Taylor, they need Aaron Jones back. This was a really good road showing, and they had control of this game, but it slipped away. They're going to face New Orleans next week, by the way, speaking again of the mess between these two divisions. It slipped away from the defense, Cease. Did it slip away, or did Desmond Ridder kind of find himself in the second half?
Yeah, Desmond Ridder getting better. The team setting up things for him to be able to do that. And how do they do it? Well, run the ball. 45 carries, 211 yards as a team. Most of that, Bijan Robinson. I love him. 19 for 124. There you go. 4 for 48 as a receiver. Tyler Algier, 16 for 48. Even 3 yards a clip. They're still feeding him the rock. 10 yards is a long one. Still feeding it to him. Drake London, 6 for 67 and a touchdown. Thank God it wasn't the devil line. Mac Hollins, 3 for 60. Kyle Pitts. Let's move on. But let's talk about Atlanta and how they're doing it and doing it well with that ground game.
Desmond Ridder, interception early, was hit while he threw. Wasn't a terrible interception. But then in the second half, you really see him come on. You see him make plays under pressure in a game situation. He has a good game for fantasy. In Superflex 2 quarterback leagues, you might be considering him in more competitive games. And again, as an offshoot there, Drake London, you were hoping, hey, Ridder 15 for 18, a lot of short passing last week. This week, 32 attempts or so. Well, they completed like 19 of them, but had to open up the pass offense a little more. So Drake London comes through in a more competitive game. Next week against Detroit, by the way, should be a game. Again, you're looking at Ritter, maybe depending on who your starter is. Like if it's Joe Burrow, you might start Ritter next week. You saw also Bijan Robinson. Whew. You want to see what a running back who deserves to go in the top 10 looks like? Just watch Bijan Robinson. It's just great. It's great. And it doesn't matter. Tyler Algier, 16 for 48. But he's still getting 16 carries in a game that they trailed a decent amount of the way. And even with Bijan Robinson getting 19 carries. So he's a matchup flex play. Next week against Detroit, you hope for some touchdown opportunities. You've got something there. If you have the Falcons as a fan. Mac Hollins almost had a touchdown. And then we get to Kyle Pitts. He had an end zone pass interference that he drew. They threw in a double coverage. Jonnu Smith. This is how the fantasy gods are dunking on you now. If you took Kyle Pitts, hey, 6 rounds cheaper. Jonnu Smith is outscoring him now. This is where we are with Kyle Pitts. And see, I don't know what to say, right? Is he a shut him down? He has to be a hold on. But are we asking people just to go through torture if they hold on? But if you drop him, could he finally, this is a good team. Maybe they'll start using him. Just don't take Kyle Pitts. It's too late if you already took him. And again, next week, Detroit, Atlanta, that's going to be fun.
Raiders and Bills is next up here as we're going through the games on the Audible. And, well, it's a blowout win. Yeah, okay. Buffalo bounces back 38-10. Jimmy Garoppolo, couple of picks, 185 through the air, 1 touchdown in this game. And then you saw Devontae Adams with that touchdown, 6 for 84. Josh Jacobs, 5 for 51 as a receiver, 9 for -2 as a runner. Trey Tucker with a long 34-yard run to lead the way. Zamir White, 4 for 22. Why am I talking about those guys? Hunter Renfrow, Austin Hooper, nobody's starting these guys. So there you go. You started Josh. You started Devontae. I hope you didn't start Jimmy G. And the Raiders fall on their face in Buffalo, just like we thought.
Yeah, this game actually went the way we kind of thought. Well, at first, Jimmy Garoppolo and Devontae Adams hooked up for a couple of big plays, including a touchdown. I think maybe Trey Tucker had a nice run, a 5-play, 75-yard drive to open. Ooh, maybe this Raiders team is okay. No, the well went dry. You saw pressure on Garoppolo. You saw Matt Milano interception when he climbed over the back of Josh Jacobs. At least Jacobs was getting targets. Renfrow, the $13.1 million guy. And see, Ziegler and McDaniels signed him to that. They can't even pin it on the previous regime. That was one of their signature moves, like signing Russell Wilson to an extension. And yeah, this was a bad offense. It's not going to support. So on one hand, I see my man JJ Zachary's not there. Well, Josh Jacobs is dominating targets, dominating carries. That's good for fantasy football. But if it's this offense, this is an offense where you said, hey, I don't know if it's going to be a good offense. You were probably right. Jacoby Myers was okay, and this team beat Denver. What does that say about Denver? More on that later. Hey. Steelers coming. Another bad team. All these bad teams. Buffalo, they're kind of a good team.
2 Monday night games, really? Anyway.
Yeah.
Buffalo side, Josh Allen throws 3 touchdowns, 31-37, 274 yards. Awesome. Running less, 3 for 7. Okay. Don't take those hits. Only sacked a couple of times. Gabe Davis, 6 for 92 and a touchdown. Stephon Diggs, 7 for 66 in this one. It's Khalil Shakir with a touchdown. It's Dawson Knox with a touchdown. They didn't do anything significant catches or yardage-wise. Dalton Kincaid, 5 for 43. So we're watching that continue. A little tight end by committee. It's all about James Cook, though. 17 for 123. Then Damian Harris with a rushing touchdown. And Latavius Murray with a rushing touchdown. But balance, Daniel Son. Yeah. Sigmund Son. 37 passing attempts for Allen. 35 rushing attempts for the team. Sounds pretty good.
It sounds good. You do see if you have Josh Allen. Remember, halfway into the season last year, he was the clear number 1 fantasy quarterback. This year, we got some foreshadowing. When they get inside the 10, they're calling running plays, but none for Josh Allen. They're all for Murray and for Damian Harris, who each scored in this one. Josh Allen still had a good fantasy day because of the short, efficient passing game, the one downfield threat being Gabe Davis, who had a good game. He's still a wide receiver 3 flex with upside. A little bit of a floor game from Stephon Diggs because the ball got spread around. Dalton Kincaid was okay, but Dawson Knox got the touchdown, got another end zone target. So it's still, for fantasy, a little more of a tight end by committee. And you're not seeing Dalton Kincaid ripping off big plays yet, but you really do see that they're not exposing Josh Allen, at least not in a game where they don't have to. I know when there's going to be a back and forth game, you're going to see Josh Allen scramble more, run more, even in the red zone, do what he has to do. But it does lower his fantasy ceiling week to week a little bit. I'll tell you who's got a high ceiling is James Cook. James Cook looks good. Good. And you can see, even with Harris and Murray each faltering a touchdown and Cook not really being on the field on goal-to-goal situations, I think, except for maybe a passing set, he still has a great day for fantasy and sees it builds in upside. Don't be bummed that because Harris and Murray are plotters at this point. Cook is not. And I think you're going to start seeing Cook mixed in a little bit more in the red zone. And even if not, you're going to get days like this. You're going to get days like this from this offense. You're going to get days like this from a lot of offenses against the Raiders. Maybe not the Steelers next week. Buffalo next week against Washington. Probably another good day for them on offense.
Should we start the hashtag shut down Joe? Not sorry Joe, and not sorry Joe Plus, but shut down Joe Burrow until he's healthy.
Yeah.
Like, save him from himself, because he's out there and he's trying and it's struggling. Now, the only team in the modern playoff format to go 0-2 and make the playoffs is Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. But they're 0-2 now, losing to Baltimore 27-24, the final score. Ravens 2-0, Bengals 0-2, Lamar Jackson better. 24-33, 237, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Nelson Aguilar, 5 for 63 and a touch. Mandrews out there, 5 for 45 and a touch. Zay Flowers, 4 for 62. And Odell Beckham Jr. got hurt.
Yeah.
Give me the update you have on that. 3 for 29. What? I'm surprised he made it to week 2. Rashad Bateman, I'm surprised he's even out there. Here's Gus Edwards. I got one of the Baltimore backs. Well, okay, they're kind of going to use a bunch because Lamar's still going to run. 12 for 54. Gus Edwards, 10 for 62 and a touch. Justice Hill, 11 for 41. There's your big 3.7 yards a carry. Justice Hill, 3 for 12 as a receiver. Like, okay, they won. That's good. Lamar looked better. That's good. Aguilar, Zay Flowers, Mandrews, lean on those guys and Gus and keep winning.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, this has been a breezy 2-0 start for this team. They have to be feeling good about this. Lamar Jackson, like you said, it's still short passing. There was one deep ball to Zay Flowers. They tried to get Zay Flowers to touchdown, a couple of touches, short passes, like little pop passes, didn't get in. Mandrews, I think, finished that drive. But you still see Lamar Jackson getting more comfortable. It's short passing. It's rhythm passing even, and it's good. It's working. And you're still seeing Lamar Jackson add as a runner. And by the way, next week, the Indianapolis Colts. So when Lamar Jackson might be quarterback 1 in the rankings. Beckham got tackled at the 1, then he got hurt, ankle. But you saw the connection. And see, there was a clip earlier in the preseason from Nelson Aguilar when he was talking about, because remember, Lamar Jackson said, oh, yeah, they're actually asking me for plays. They're actually asking me for input. And Nelson Aguilar talked about how in practice, and Aguilar's a veteran, well, if the quarterback says this is the way to do it, that's the way you do it, right? Just veteran lessons to the youngsters. So you saw right away, Nelson Aguilar knows how to do it the way Lamar Jackson wants him to do it. And he was the best fantasy play among the wide receivers today. We're going to talk about him on the waiver wire show. Beckham was ruled out pretty quickly, so I think we are going to see some Aguilar to Jackson connection. It may carry over even after Beckham is back because Rashad Bateman doesn't look like he's 100%, even without Beckham out there. Zay Flowers' role didn't really change when Beckham went out, which is Aguilar came in and was very good. It was a helmet catch, by the way, on the big play from Flowers. Andrews knocking off some rust. Andrews and Kelsey, you just hope that they're just knocking off the rust. These guys are warriors, and they're not going to look the way they did this week, although they still produced for you. Gus Edwards looks like the Gus bus. Get on the bus. Justice Hill had a few more touches, but as I speculated, Edwards was the better pickup, even though maybe a little cheaper. Melvin Gordon didn't turn this into a 3-headed backfield yet. I don't think there's any reason to be looking for that next week against the tough Colts run defense. And you get a road win in the division, Cecil, even against a gimpy quarterback. You're happy.
You know when I'd be happy is when I'm hanging out in Vegas with Devin Knotts.
Yeah. What's up, Devin?
Let's get back there, baby. Let's get back there.
Tomorrow night, Browns Steelers were enemies.
Yes. For one night. We'll make it up in Vegas. But Joe Burrow getting hurt, still hurt, whatever hurt.
Yeah.
I don't know. 222, 2 touchdowns, 1 INTs. 2 touchdowns to T. Higgins, got them both. 8 for 89 in this one. Tyler Boyd, 6 for 52. Jamar Chase, 5 for 31. Joe Mixon, 13 for 59, and then 4 for 36 as a receiver. And here we have the Cincinnati Bengals facing 0-2, facing a gutsy quarterback, but a quarterback that clearly isn't himself, Bloom, and answers could be difficult.
Yes. He said that he aggravated the injury, and you have to wonder, Cease, you have to wonder if this is just kind of a lost year for him. I'm not saying he's going to go on the shelf IR for the season. I'm not saying that he has an injury that's going to get worse and require surgery, although those things are possible. Just saying that this is one of those situations where, like we talked about in the preseason, Cooper Kupp was another good example. If someone's hurt, and maybe Travis Kelce will end up being another example. So they already know they're hurt in the preseason, like hurt enough to miss. Although we learned about Kelce after the drafts. Don't listen to me.
Right.
My point is, if they're hurt bad enough to miss a game, if they're hurt bad enough to miss weeks of practice before the season starts, then that's bad because generally you don't get healthier as the season goes on. And with Burrow, you saw finally in the second half of this game, they got an offensive touchdown, and he was able to do some stuff with short passing. T. Higgins in the red zone, you can use him as a guy that can block out. So he had a good game. But I don't know if Burrow is going to play next week. I don't know if it's good if he does. This whole season, this whole offense for fantasy football is on very thin ice right now.
High alert.
Yeah. So we'll see. If you have Burrow as your quarterback, you need to make other plans. Jamar Chase in this short passing game isn't really going to do that much. T. Higgins, maybe it's a little better suited to him, and Tyler Boyd, not Irv Smith. Joe Mixon's actually running okay. If you're worried about Mixon, he's in decline. That's why he's falling. We were wondering about a suspension, or are they going to bring in a veteran or something like that? Are they going to even cut him? He looks okay, but if the rest of this offense is a bottom half of the league offense, because the other thing, Cecil, is they have the worst. Is there a team with a worse backup quarterback situation than the Bengals? Jake Browning, right? Like, I don't think so. So you trade for Mason Rudolph. I don't know, but for the Bengals, you're looking at next week against the Rams. If you fall to 0-3, even the healthy Burrow Bengals, this is tough. This is a really tough turn for this team, and we could have seen it coming.
Do you have a different setting on your ring light?
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. I'm just asking because like it's a little too hot. It's like this. See how my view changed? Like it's like a little neon Cecil, right? Little after dark, and you never know what you're gonna get. And then there's the warm light. Do you have a warm setting on that? Oh, now your mic's off.
I need to get a better ring light, and I need to remember when I mute my mic.
Okay, there we go. All right, it is the audible. Kansas City, Jacksonville is the next game up, and the Chiefs get the win. Kelce is back, and let's talk about it. 17-9, the final score. Not the offensive showcase that we perhaps thought these two teams would put on. It is Pat Mahomes going 29-41, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, 1 to Sky Moore, 3 for 70 and a touchdown. Don't give up on Sky Moore. 1 to Travis Kelce, of course, 4 for 26 and a touchdown. Kadarius Toney actually caught every single pass thrown his way, 5 for 35. Okay, good job. Rashee Rice, 2 for 20. MVS, nobody's playing him, 2 for 13. You're playing Isaiah Pacheco, 12 for 70 on the ground. Okay, a catch, no yards. But here you go. They win. I mean, Jerick McKinnon, a few catches. Like, they win, but again, it's not like all this firepower, even though it was 300 yards passing for Patty Mahomes.
They win with defense. So this is a scary team now. This is a scary Chiefs team if they can win with defense. Because Patrick Mahomes, you have the narrative coming into this game with Jacksonville that they actually played them pretty tough, tougher than folks expected in the playoffs last year. Now they're going to get a chance to show that since last year, we've grown up a little bit, and now we can hang with you. And the Jacksonville defense, I think, did their part. I think the Jacksonville defense showed they grew up, and they really limited Patrick Mahomes. Really curious that even though Isaiah Pacheco running with a lot of energy, barely using him, almost 4 passing plays to every Pacheco handoff here in a close game. But you did see Patrick Mahomes, the classic, what he's learned since they started playing him with the cover 2 shells, taking what the defense gives him, not exactly a bend but don't break defense from Kansas City, and Travis Kelce's not really 100% yet. You also see the ball spread around. Patrick Mahomes told us this was going to happen. Kadarius Toney looks dynamic. He shouldn't go away. Sky Moore, crafty, getting behind the defense, getting a touchdown. He shouldn't go away. Maybe Richie James should go away. You have Watson and Valdez-Scantling playing the deep ball to help stretch the defense. So you have a lot of different things going on, and Patrick Mahomes is going to take advantage of what he has, but it's not going to be great for fantasy unless you're talking about the points collecting at Patrick Mahomes. You saw, a really nice interception from Andre Cisco, forced a fumble from Justin Watson. It looked like this was going to be a toe-to-toe defensive battle, but eventually you did get a touchdown from Kelce. And then, so you're like, where's my Kansas City defense? Calm down. Next week, Chicago.
Yeah, next week it's all good.
Yeah.
Even for Denver in 2 weeks when they face
Right.
Chicago,
Right.
it'll be all good. It's not all good right now. What about Jacksonville? Trevor Lawrence, 22 of 41, 216 yards, no touchdowns, no INTs. Christian Kirk, 11 for 110, also had a passing attempt for negative yard. Anyway, Evan Ingram, 6 for 57. Calvin Ridley, chat room's going, what's wrong with Calvin? 2 for 32. Okay. Travis Etienne, 12 for 40. Nothing else there. And here we go. Zay Jones had 6 targets, no catches. Okay. An interesting score, an interesting attack, quote unquote, for both of these teams, Bloom.
Yeah. For Jacksonville, I just think we have to say, wow, you put Chris Jones out there with Kansas City's defense now. We're talking. This Kansas City defense was really tough to crack. One of the field goals Jacksonville got was off of a muffed punt. Richie James again. So, I mean, Jacksonville, we saw what they did against Indy, but we also we'll talk about what CJ Stroud did against Indy today. Because again, we're recontextualizing everything. Week 1 data points change in meaning based on week 2 data points. So we know that Kansas City's defense, we actually are a little more impressed with what Detroit did in week 1, honestly, seeing how this Kansas City defense is now, although they didn't have Chris Jones. And with Jacksonville, at least they had the courtesy to tell us that Christian Kirk was going to be used more. So we have this now where maybe it's just going to be one guy a week, or at least against a Kansas City level defense. Now you might see more than one. You know that Evan Ingram's going to be good. With Zay Jones, know this. He got 2 almost amazing touchdowns. Two amazing catches that he was very close to finishing. So you have a boom bust play there, just like you have with Kirk and maybe Ridley. I think that Kansas City is going to be good at limiting what offenses do well. Of course, the slot passes to Kirk are a little more like a layup. You also saw them limit Travis Etienne. Remember, Etienne was pretty well held in check until that touchdown that broke open the game last week. Etienne also not as involved as a receiver. So we saw this as a fantasy bonanza. And we may still see it as a fantasy bonanza when we look back at this year and say, hey, just Kansas City's defense is a big limiting factor. Next week, again, this is, if you can't play Chicago, Cease, at least maybe you can play Houston. That's who Jacksonville gets next week.
There we go. It is the Audible, and Chargers haven't won a game. Okay. Chargers and Titans is the next game that we're going to talk about, and I just spoiled it for you. 27-24. The Titans get the win in overtime. Justin Herbert, 305 yards, 2 touchdowns, no INTs, both of them to Keenan Allen. 8 for 111 and 2 Big Mike Williams, 8 for 83 in this one. Gerald Everett, 3 for 47. Quentin Johnson, not yet with Quentin Johnson. I still love him, but not yet. You got Joshua Kelly on your waiver wire. Yes, no, Austin Eckler. He's going to get everything. 13 for 39. 13 for 39. Remember the day. remember the 5th of November. Remember Joshua Kelly tanking your team. Anyway, let's talk Chargers, baby.
Yeah, this game's funny, Cease. Sometimes everything is just okay, exactly the way we expect, right? Mike Vrabel teams are going to scrap and battle and find a way to win a game they should win, and the Chargers will find a way to lose a game they should have won. And that's just how we set our watches in the NFL. Justin Herbert's fantasy numbers were fine, mainly going to Allen Williams. Without Eckler, you really see the focus on Allen Williams in the passing game, but he couldn't make plays. There were 3 or 4 drives that to Herbert, if he makes plays, they win the game, and he didn't. So Kellen Moore can't change that. Josh Palmer didn't do anything, but he almost had another almost amazing touchdown where he made the catch, just couldn't quite finish it. We did know that Kelly wasn't going to have much room to run against Tennessee. What we didn't know is without Eckler, they just weren't going to pass to the running back. Kelly got some targets last week, not this week, and he wasn't going to get the chance to finish any touchdowns. You did see Keenan Allen doing that. Keenan Allen looks like a really good 3rd-round pick for fantasy. As long as he stays healthy, you're going to be really happy that you took him. Minnesota Vikings, another team that underachieves, another 0-2 against 0-2, kind of an early season elimination game next week.
Tennessee Titans side of things, we go. Ryan Tannehill, 20 of 24, efficient, 246, 1 touchdown, no INTs. The touchdown to Nick Westbrook at Kinney. Nobody started him. 3 for 25 and a touch. Traylon Burks, you might have started. 3 for 76. We didn't quite know if DeAndre Hopkins was going to play. He did. 4 for 40. Okay. Chris Moore, 1 for 49. Nobody started him. You started Derrick Henry, 25 of 80 and a touchdown. By the way, Ryan Tannehill had a rushing touchdown. And then Derrick Henry had 3 for 15. Tajay Spears, popular. What the heck? Flex, 8 for 49. It'll work. 2 for 6 as a receiver. PPR, that'll bump you up a little bit. Chiggy, I still love Chiggy so much. 4 for 35. Okay. Not yet. And yeah, they get a win, just further reinforcing that Ryan Tannehill is going to continue on with this team.
Yeah, this team could be 2-0. They lost to the Saints 16-15 in New Orleans, and the refs jobbed them out of a defensive touchdown in that game. So we could be talking about a 2-0 Titans team again, the team that we thought was going to be bad. Fantasy, I'm not really sure. There's not a lot we can profit from that. Derrick Henry not finding a lot of room to run late, but still able to help this team with his physicality. Tajay Spears, just keep him on your bench. Still looks good when he has the ball in his hands. You might need a Henry injury for him to matter in fantasy, but he could really matter because he looks like he can play. You had a deep ball to Burks. Hopkins is not 100%, so we'll watch his practice reports next week to see if we want to play him next week against Cleveland. Chiggy, can't use him in fantasy yet. But wow, he just looks like a bully out there. He's going to be a good football player. This is not a pass offense that's going to create a lot of overachievers. See, I think of the movie, the Hudsucker Proxy, Coen Brothers. You ever seen it?
Wow. Yes. Deep pull.
So remember,
it's Coen Brothers, baby, of course.
At the end of the movie, Tim Robbins is like on the clock, right? Like clock's like counting down to midnight, right? And at midnight, like everything's going to fall apart. That's the doomsday clock for Tannehill. Tannehill's hanging on that clock, and today he pulled it back a few minutes from midnight, and he had a good fantasy day. And Tennessee, that personality of Mike Vrabel and Ryan Tannehill and this team is going to overcome whatever flaws they have.
The flaw you have in Detroit is the quarterback is not good enough. Sorry, like they're scoring points fantasy wise, yeah, numbers, yay. It's still Jared Goff. I don't care. Like at the end of and I'm not a Lions hater or doubter or whatever. Obviously, the points are there with this team, but it's Jared Goff screwing it up at the end. 37-31, the final score. They're 1-1 now, both Seattle and Detroit. Let's talk Seattle side. And Geno Smith, 32 of 41, 328, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Kept throwing to the tight ends. And others, DK Metcalf, 6 for 75. Tyler Lockett, 8 for 59 and 2 touchdowns. Noah Fant, 4 for 56. Colby Parkinson, 2 for 41. Will Dissly, 3 for 35. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 5 for 34. The running game, Kenneth Walker, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2.5 a clip. So they just kept plugging it away at 43 yards on the ground. Also, Kenneth with a catch for 11 yards. Zach Charbonnet, a couple of catches, and then 4 for 16 on the ground. So they win. They take advantage of Jared Goff's mistakes and seal their victory. And they do it with tight ends and Tyler Lockett.
Yeah. Oh, what a game. See, low key, this is becoming one of the best non-divisional rivalries. These teams have played 3 straight years, 3 high-scoring games. Last year, it basically decided a playoff spot. Maybe we'll look back this year. It will decide a playoff spot this year. There were a lot of gut check games today. See, did you feel like today, there were, especially quarterbacks and teams, by virtue, whichever way you want to draw the causation between the quarterbacks and the teams, it felt like there were some quarterbacks today that said, nah, like I'm going to exert my will over the outcome of this game, and maybe in some ways the outcome of the season. I think it was that kind of day for Geno Smith. And for the Lions, I'm a Lions aficionado, it just felt like another one of those losses, another one of the games that's going to be an obstacle before this team can get up. And like you said, it might be the quarterback was a late pick 6. Although also there was probably holding on Aiden Hutchinson on the game-winning touchdown, but still, they could have done a lot of things to not have it be in the ref's hands at that point. Geno was great, could have had an even bigger day. What problem with the tackles, right? The tackles aren't going to play. Everything went downhill when the tackles went out in week 1. Well, maybe it's just the same old Lions defense. Walker was corralled, but got the touchdowns. Lockett had the key catches. That he has that trust from Geno Smith. DK Metcalf got a little banged up, produced all right, a little banged up in here. You did see, again, the tight ends. If you put the 3 of them together, you have the best tight end of the day. But split between the 3 of them, well, you just know against Detroit, again, next week it's Atlanta. That's when Kyle Pitts is going to do it, right? A big bounce back for this team, though. After the Rams embarrassed them at home, So you saw overcoming that on offense. They still have problems on defense, but they made the play, the pick six, when they needed it on defense. And like you said, Cease, Jared Goff, good enough to execute a wonderful, amazing offense, a masterpiece of an offense. Jared Goff is executing it. But can there be more? Or can there be someone who's not going to make these big mistakes at the worst possible time? The Lions had chances to win this game. They weren't able to do it. And still, you have to like what you have for the Lions, although maybe without their starting running back.
Yeah, David Montgomery, I believe it's a thigh, Bloom. Give us the latest there. 16 for 67 and a touchdown and a catch for 7 yards there. Jared Goff, though, he's the problem. 323, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. I understand it's fantasy, but just from a football standpoint, you're not going anywhere. It's like Tennessee. Like, you're not going anywhere. It could be number one in the conference. It doesn't matter. You have a lousy quarterback when it comes down to crunch time. There's Jared Goff. And people would be like, what'd you do? Lose money on it? No, no. I just like all the hype, all the excitement, and Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery when he's healthy. And we love the Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 for 102. Josh Reynolds with 2 touchdowns. Khalif Raymond, my friend, a big touchdown, 2 for 46 and a touch. Sam Laporta, 5 for 63. Like, so much excitement around this team. And Jared Goff. Bloom, take over.
Yeah, and Jared Goff, I mean, it can get worse. It can get a lot worse,
Russell Wilson.
Sure. And for fantasy, you really like this. The defense is helping, and especially Dave Montgomery is not going to be out there for some period of time. He got twisted around on a tackle. You hate to see this. They unveiled a tremendous statue of Barry Sanders at the stadium today. Cease. I mean, Barry Sanders knew not to try to fight through a tackle with a guy hanging on you and another guy. Right? You just go down, right? Just go back to the huddle, next tackle. Some of these guys with their toughness maybe open themselves up for these kind of injuries. Got spun around, he's tackled, had his knee wrapped right above the knee, thigh injury, they called it. You see Goff harvesting the numbers in this offense. Amon-Ra St. Brown had some cramps, but he got over that, got back in the game. A good game for him. Indeed, we saw Marvin Jones, smaller role, Josh Reynolds, bigger role, and he's still somehow out there on the waiver wire. He's going to be a priority. And hopefully that means Jameson Williams can do things downfield whenever he's back. But for now, it is Reynolds. You didn't see as much Gibbs inside. Remember, you have Craig Netflix Reynolds, although I just think that the inside running game is probably not going to be that good without Montgomery. We'll see how long he's going to be out. It's going to be more Goff to Reynolds, Goff to Laporta, who had his first big game. Hey, you had Khalif Raymond on a flea flicker touchdown. And I want to just highlight again with the flea flicker. The play designs are tremendous. Some of the creativity, the things that this offense, Ben Johnson, is willing to try, it is working. And it's going to create a good fantasy outlook. But you have this Atlanta team up next, a tough out. This team trying to make a step forward might be looking at 1-2. You just hate taking these kinds of losses, especially after they had momentum coming out of week 1.
Indianapolis and Houston is next up here on the Audible, and it's Indianapolis getting it done. That is correct. So let's talk about those guys. And Gardner Minshew, 19 of 23, 171, 1 touchdown. That means Anthony Richardson, 6 for 10 for 56 in this one. Bloom, we got a lot to discuss there. Yeah. Kylan Granson, who there was questions about whether he was going to play. He did play a touchdown. Zach Moss returned 18 for 88, a touchdown. Anthony Richardson, 2 rushing touchdowns. So there you go. Will Mallory, Dynasty, you're watching. Nobody starting him, 2 for 49. Josh Downs, Dynasty, nobody starting him. Redraft, 4 for 37. Alec Pierce, same thing, 2 for 28. So interesting here, but now we're worried with Anthony Richardson. Let's discuss.
Yeah, he was off to a tremendous start. You can really see his superior athleticism. They're willing to call his number in the red zone. He ran in 2 touchdowns very early. He was probably going to be the highest scoring player in fantasy football today. If he hadn't gone out early on the second touchdown, back of his head came down, concussion. You hope it's going to be a speedy recovery for him. You have to feel so good if you have Anthony Richardson. And he was still doing pretty well as a passer early and was on his way to a big day. And he's just too good for us. So I think that Anthony Richardson, the fantasy god, stepped in and said, not today. You're not going to win today just because you have Anthony Richardson. Maybe in the future. Gardner Minshew, you see that alignment with Shane Steichen. He comes in and executes the passing game really well. And what I get out of that, Cease, is he can help Anthony Richardson, right? If Gardner Minshew is that comfortable, it is against Houston, in the passing game.
True.
He can help Anthony Richardson as kind of an assistant coach. I think it's really good. You had the defense, Houston's offensive line helping with some jailbreak sacks, and you had Zach Moss. Hey, newsflash: start running backs against Houston. Okay, next week again is ETN. He's going to have a bounce back game. 3 rushing touchdowns in week 1 for Baltimore, and Zach Moss. Have we ever said this on the Audible before? Zach Moss had a big game for fantasy football. I don't know. I don't think so. So if you're thinking, hey, it's a starting running back, well, that worked out. So next week, though, we'll see Indianapolis against Baltimore. And even though Anthony Richardson's banged up, you got to feel good about your head coach hire and your number 4 pick if you are a Colts fan.
C.J. Stroud, 2 touchdowns on the day, 30-47 passing, 384 yards. Nico Collins, 7 for 146 and a touch. Robert Woods, 6 for 74. Tank Dell, 7 for 72 and a touch. They said that you keep using them more.
Yeah.
There's your more. Dalton Schultz, 4 for 34. Damian Pierce, 15 for 31. Huh? Okay, so they're doing it with Stroud. They're scoring 10 points in the fourth quarter with Stroud.
Yeah.
Throwing those touchdowns and not much help from the ground game. 2 yards a carry today as a team.
Yeah. You know who's feeling really good right now, Cease?
Mm.
Monty Austinfort.
Mm.
Monty Austinfort, the GM of the Arizona Cardinals, because they have the Houston Texans number 1 pick. Was it worth it? Was it really worth it to get Will Anderson? We'll see. You got CJ Stroud, and the first touchdown to Collins looked like it was by accident, kind of. But Collins looks great, and at least CJ Stroud is gonna sit back there and sling it. He's just gonna sling it, so that's great. And he is going to help us. Nico Collins, Tank Dell. Again, this is just like Christian Kirk. They told us he was going to be used more. He was used more. He did well. And this is a team that's going to be losing. They have a bad defense. And CJ Stroud is not going to be shy throwing the ball against these defenses that are just nursing big leads. The Indy pass defense, still suspect. Almost 400 yards for Stroud. Again, next week, Lamar Jackson. Where you're worried about here is Damian Pierce. You thought, hey, Bobby Slowick, Shanahan disciple, running game's going to be, 4 offensive line injuries. Can we even tell? Can we even tell what this running game was supposed to look like? At least, again, CJ Stroud, with 4 offensive line starters out, is able to be productive here. Robert Woods even has some emergency depth. And again, Houston goes to Jacksonville next week. I hope Will Anderson was worth it.
Chicago and Tampa Bay. Baker Mayfield's worth it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe he could play defense for the Bears. Would be an upgrade. Let's discuss this game. 27-17, the final score. Bears are 0-2. Tampa is 2-0. NFC South, everybody. Justin Fields, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs, 211 yards. DJ Moore, 6 for 104. Okay, that was fixed. Chase Claypool, well, you got a touchdown. Nobody's starting him. Cole Kmet, you might have been starting, 4 for 38. The running game, I guess Roshan's going to be in there. No, Fields gets a rushing touchdown. Roshan gets 4 for 32. Khalil Herbert gets 7 for 35. And it's not like Tampa Bay ran away with this game. It was 10-10 at the half.
Yeah.
So, you could have more than 16 rushing attempts. You really could. And then 29 passing attempts. That does not compute with the way that you have to win. And in a close game, you thought you'd do more, and they didn't.
Yeah. See, so I don't want to go sports talk radio on this one, but you heard coming out of Chicago that the feeling around the building was just discouraged. Just everybody was discouraged after week 1, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Tampa's defense is tough, okay, but you can beat them through the air. And whether it was Justin Fields or the game plan or whatever you wanted to chalk it up to, there was a sense of it's going to be better. It's going to be better this week. We're going to show you this week. And for the first couple of plays, TJ Moore had 2 for 65 on the opening drive. Justin Fields runs in the touchdown. Oh, yeah, it's going to be better. No, it wasn't really better. And the thought starts to creep into your mind. Is this just going to be Justin Fields, right? Is this just what he's going to be in the NFL? I wonder if we watch Bryce Young start to take off. Remember, they traded out the number 1 pick. There were a few people who floated out there. You have to at least consider Bryce Young. Consider it, because Justin Fields in this offense, the offense doesn't have an identity. They're not using Fields as a runner by design.
Mm-hmm.
You're not even leaning into what he can do to put a defense on their heels when they were putting up points last year, right? Or just encouraging him to run, encouraging him to be in the mode that puts defenses off balance. Instead, you're neutering him. So, there was a pick six at the end. Fields had a chance. There was a pick six on a screen that he just didn't read well. Shaq Barrett getting that. But it just doesn't feel like the game is comfortable for him as a passer. The offensive line, the offensive coordinator is not making him comfortable. Yes, DJ Moore had a good game statistically, but it feels like a sell high moment. Mooney's hurt. Claypool had a redemption game. He's got a touchdown. That's good for him going to free agency to show that he can do something. Dante Foreman was inactive. It didn't matter. Like you said, he's not establishing the run. If there's anyone that's going to hit in this backfield, it's not Herbert. It would be Johnson. Cole Kmet had 5 catches. And you say, okay, next week, that's when you're going to see the real Bears. But next week they play Kansas City. So the talk is going to get louder. The thought's going to creep in further. Is this just what Justin Fields is going to be?
Let his natural playmaking ability take over. You do that because sacked 6 times. Again, Tampa's going to get after you, right? But let his natural playmaking take over. Don't force him to be a robot and expect him to develop as a passer as the years, plural, go on. Baker Mayfield, he's quite developed. 317, 1 touchdown, no INTs. It's against the Bears, everybody. But yeah, Baker got it done. 6 for 171 and 1 touchdown for Mike Evans. Chris Godwin, 5 for 58 in this one. K. Otten, 6 for 41. I do know people. I've had K. Otten questions. Rashad White, 17 for 73 and a touchdown, and then 5 for 30 as a receiver. So here you go. 27-17. They get that win, and Baker's leading the hot, undefeated Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Cease, I've been saying it for a couple of weeks. Narrative matters, right?
Oh, of course.
Because if you started just watching Baker Mayfield like in the middle of last year, like after the Panthers released him, okay, you think, oh, this guy was an undrafted free agent, 6th, 7th round pick. They probably passed over him because he was short. You know, he actually has a decent arm. He's a good leader. He's fiery. His teammates get behind him. Oh, yeah, I'm rooting for this guy. He's going to overcome these low expectations. But when he was the number 1 pick, when he was the franchise savior, his self-anointed franchise savior in insurance commercials, you know, that narrative didn't fit him. This one does. The underdog narrative fits him. It fits this team. So, yes, let's pick on Chicago's defense. Chicago's defense is going to make everybody look good. But Baker Mayfield looks good. And Baker Mayfield has chemistry with Mike Evans. And it's going to come for Chris Godwin. Just barely missed on a touchdown. It's coming. The chemistry is there. They're even getting Devin Tompkins and Trey Palmer, some speedy guys involved. Even Rashad White. They handed off to him on 3rd and goal from the 5. And he gets in. So there's some trust there. And that rising tide, we thought Tampa's offense is going to wither on the vine. Evans, Godwin, White, you know, they were all at the bottom of their range of outcomes where we were drafting them. But Baker Mayfield says, no, not so fast. Even Kate Otten did something. So Edmonds got hurt in this one, by the way. So Vaughn was inactive. So even more opportunity for Sean Tucker. But again, Rashad White saying, no, he's going to be a solid back, a great fantasy back today. Now let's see if this team is actually any good, because next week they play the 2-0 Philadelphia Eagles.
The best Baker is the grabbing the crotch Baker. If you can tap that crotch,
that's how you activate it.
Yes, get him to plant the flag. Sorry
like
if Devin's still kicking in the chat room, but didn't he take it in Ohio State? He like tried to plant the flag, and then it was like turf, so it just fell over. But hey, he's running around, he's yelling, he's grabbing his crotch. Sorry, Joe. Like.
It's the crotch piece. It's like an over the top when someone says it's like a switch with his hat. That's the crotch. It's the switch.
It is a switch. I'll leave that one alone.
On or off.
What does the script say?
Sorry, Joe.
What does the script say about the Cardinals? It's like, we're going to allow you to tank, but don't make it look like you're tanking. Like, really put up a fight. Or is it just the NFC East?
The writers are on strike, Cease. They're not supposed to be doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe the writers have got the side gig, moonlighting as NFL writers, because it's like Arizona, you come out, Josh Dobbs is hot. This team is up 20-0, and they lose. 31-28 is the final score, and the Giants get the win. I don't know if I would be feeling good, Giants fans. More on that in just a little bit, like right now, because Daniel Jones gets 321, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT, gets the rushing touchdown, the first score of the year for the Giants. Saquon Barkley's hurt now. But before he was hurt, 17 for 63 and a touch on the ground, 6 for 29 and a touch as a receiver. There you go. Jalen Hyatt, 2 for 89. Darren Waller, 6 for 76. Darius Slayton, 3 for 62. Isaiah Hodgins, 4 for 40 and a touchdown there as well. So it's like, okay, this one's a head scratcher. It's a
Yeah.
head scratcher for the Giants and for the Cardinals, but we're talking G-men right here.
Yeah, I think that with the Giants coming into the season, had a good preseason, they won a road playoff game. Things are going to get even better in the second year. They got Darren Waller, and then they go out and they just get absolutely smoked by the Cowboys. And they come to this, okay, it's going to be better this week, and they get smoked in the first half, 20-0. But they were having to look up. It's like the 70s since some teams started out giving up 60 points before they scored a point. And you thought, is this really? Wow, this is bad. I mean, this starts to make you question, like, where is this team headed? Where's Daniel Jones? Where's this all going?
Makes you question Brian Daboll, and I hate that because I love Brian Daboll.
Exactly. You're watching this, but then in the second half, they changed the story. They changed the narrative. And is it just that the Cardinals are vulnerable? I mean, this was a defense that held down Washington pretty well last week, and they eventually got up off the deck. They get the win. Jones is going to be at least okay for fantasy football. We'll see about him as a franchise quarterback or taking this team to the next step beyond just winning a playoff game. But he's going to have to do without Saquon Barkley probably for a while. I mean, when I say a while, I don't know. I'm no Dr. Gene, but that looked to me like 4 to 6 weeks. Certainly not. They're playing Thursday night, so you're not going to have him Thursday night. He goes off late. One of those tackles where the tackler hangs on the running back and then his legs whip around and take him out, and it's just it was bad. I didn't like seeing that. He looked frustrated. We'll talk about Matt Breida on the waiver wire show, but the answer is probably no. Jalen Hyatt getting downfield, making some plays. Even Darius Slayton had a play. Darren Waller did his thing, so we're not as worried about the hamstring. Isaiah Hodgins even caught a touchdown, but it was all focused on Jones and Barkley. So it'll be Jones, but could we go back to embarrassment, public execution, like week 1 on national TV against San Francisco? We'll see. We're going to talk about San Francisco. There were some incursions, but they did get that win.
What do you think about your team's execution? I'm all in favor.
I'm all for it. Yeah, John McKay.
I'm all for it. Yeah, John McKay. There we go. Yeah, we got to talk Arizona side again. Weird. It's weird. Like you're tanking, but you're not. Are you tank? I do. My head hurts. I do love Michael Wilson though. 3 for 56 in this game. Dynasty, keep a pin in him. We might talk about him in the waiver wire show. Bloom, throw out some ducats. Zach Ertz, 6 for 56. Marquise Brown, 6 for 54 and a touch. Trey McBride, 2 for 32. Rondale Moore, 1 for 14. James Conner, 23 for 106 and a rushing touchdown. Josh Dobbs, 3 for 41 and a rushing touchdown. So there you go. That's how the Cardinals put up a fight and then fell apart in the second half.
Yeah, this one, it was theirs. And I don't know what happened. We watched the Giants against Dallas week 1. We thought, well, this game got out of hand so quickly. Yeah, Wink Martindale's defense, Giants, pretty good, right? Well, I don't know. I mean, this might be a defense we pick on. We're going to watch them against San Francisco and expect our San Francisco players to come through for us. But hey, now in Superflex leagues, 2 quarterback Joshua Dobbs on our radar for fantasy. Yeah, nice touchdown run. First touchdown run of his career. Steelers should never let him get away, Cease, right? I mean, just he's doing something, right? I mean, he's doing more than Justin Fields as far as fitting with the offense and bringing the plays to life. So at least against defenses like the Giants. Next week, Arizona gets Dallas. Okay, so don't play any of your Arizona players next week. But after that, right, other matchups, James Conner looks like it's going to be okay. Marquise Brown looks like it's going to be okay. Zach Ertz looks like it's going to be okay. Like you said, Michael Wilson, maybe there's something there. So next week against Dallas, we're not going to be saying there's something there. I mean, if there is, then we really do have something to talk about. But for now, Dallas defense is one of the stories of the early season. And Arizona, like you said, with this strange, we're going to hang in right to the end. It really couldn't be much better because, again, Houston really, 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 really wanted Will Anderson.
49ers over the Rams is next up here on the Audible. One of the games that during the Broncos game where I'm so focused in on bad football, I'm very curious to go back and watch more than just the highlights. I chart plays for every game, so it's going to be fun to chart this one because the Rams, You got some fight, man. As long as Matthew Stafford's in, you got some fight. But 30-23, the final score. Brock Purdy goes 17-25, 206, no touchdowns, no INTs. Debo, 6 for 63. Juwan Jennings, 2 for 51. Brandon Ayuk, 3 for 43. George Kittle, 3 for 30. Christian McCaffrey, 20 for 116 and a rushing touchdown. Debo Samuel, 5 for 38 and a rushing touchdown. Brock Purdy, 3 for 5 and a rushing touchdown. I got to tell you, Christian McCaffrey went 3 for 19 as a receiver. So, hell, you probably started everyone I just mentioned except for Juwan Jennings. And they were all significant because, well, there's only a few of them, Bloom, but they do a lot for this team.
Yeah, it's a concentrated offense. And we saw Debo with the big game, with the big play in the running game. Not as much from Ayuk and Kittle. They'll all take turns. Maybe they'll all go off against the Giants defense. And then McCaffrey. And you're really seeing now why they gave up the picks for McCaffrey, the fit and the ability to break chunk plays. Again, there's not going to be a committee here. And Brock Purdy. And isn't this just the story for Brock Purdy, where he has a pretty solid game and he even had a rushing touchdown, but for fantasy, he wasn't even as good as Matthew Stafford. But San Francisco is always much better than the Rams. It's been a while. This matchup between these two coaches absolutely is going Kyle Shanahan's way. But that being said, we got to put some respect on Sean McVay's name. We got to put some respect on Matthew Stafford's name because, again, we didn't factor this in our fantasy rankings. But with this offense, as long as you have a veteran like Matthew Stafford who looks healthier now, running it, it's going to produce.
Yeah, it's going to produce, and Kyren Williams is going to produce. And wow, much respect to McVay and the Rams. And Matthew Stafford, 34, 55, 307, 1 touchdown, 2 INTs. The touchdown to Kyren Williams, 6 for 48 as a receiver and a receiving touchdown. Then 14 for 52 and a rushing touchdown. You got him on the waiver wire. Forget Joshua Kelly. Kyren Williams was the guy. You started him. You love it. Puka Nacua, 15 for 147. Somebody in the chat room, and whoever you are, please post it again because I totally agree. Like, when Cooper Kupp comes back, Puka has done enough to still have a role.
Ram said as much, yeah.
Yeah, and we've got to stop with this, like, once Kupp's back, then Puka's not going to rate.
Nope.
15 for 147. Tutu Atwell, 7 for 77. Tyler Higbee, 3 for 12. Doesn't even matter. Van Jefferson, 1 for 9. Stop with the Van Jefferson stuff. I so wish I could publicly humiliate someone, but I will stay away from that. Yeah. Puka, Kyren, Rams. Don't win, but man, this is an exciting game.
Yeah, it's funny because you would think that McVay is, he is kind of from the Shanahan tree, right? So because it does remind me, Cecil, of those Mike Shanahan offenses where it just didn't even matter. If the players could execute, the numbers were going to be. Remember when Brandon Lloyd had a massive season? The numbers were going to be there. Mm-hmm. You know, if you can execute, Kyle Orton, the numbers are going to be there. All right. So yeah, this is Stafford making a Puka. We got 2 league winners. Did you get Did you get a Ram on the waiver wire in week 1? Did you get Puka? Because he's not going away, and it's just a specific game plan. It's offensive design where these receivers, Kupp, Nacua, there's a reason these guys fall to the 3rd round, 5th round. Physically, they're not a classic alpha X receiver, right? Not going to moss anybody. They're not going to win any foot races, right? They're not, Jerry Rice, okay? But in this offense, they can put up Jerry Rice kind of numbers because they're executing and they have a quarterback who can execute. So certainly you have a Matthew Stafford prayer candle. You just keep him healthy. If you picked up Nacua, if you picked up Kyren Williams, because see, you watch Kyren Williams, and this is no disrespect to Kyren Williams, who won a lot of people, a lot of matchups this week and might help you win your league this year. But he's the kind of running back you'd be like, well, we could do, but we could have someone who adds more value with the athleticism, right? He's not that athletic. He's not going to push the pile, right? He's not a tackle breaker. He's not especially elusive or sudden.
The way I best describe them coming out of Notre Dame was he was a jack of all trades, a master of none.
Sure, but that's all you need to harvest the fantasy
in a
value.
Shanahan system. Hey, Orlando Gary,
right?
You know, who are we going to talk about? Tatum Bell, my man, sure. Tatum. Shout out, Tatum.
Right. Mike Anderson, and so on. So there you have it. And if you didn't underestimate McVay and Stafford and what they can do and what they can create, because this is a good San Francisco defense. Even Tutu Atwell still hanging around. Only Tyler Higbee. But remember, Tyler Higbee was good last year for fantasy on the PPR points because the offense was struggling. This is not a struggling offense. This team was in this game for a while. So we'll put some respect on them. They are not headed to a top 3 pick, and they're going to Cincinnati, who might not be headed to a top 3 pick, but might not be headed back to the playoffs.
How about them Cowboys up next as we recap Jets and Cowboys? You can beat the Bills. You can't even put up a fight against Dallas. 30-10, the final score. Zach Wilson throws 3 picks, 12 of 27, 170 yards, and he gets 1 touchdown. And that's to Garrett Wilson, 2 for 83 and a touch. Beautiful 68-yarder. Tyler Conklin, 5 for 50. Alan Lazard, 2 for 23. McCole Hardman. Why am I reading these names? Dalvin Cook, nothing. Michael Carter, nothing. Breece Hall, let's do it again. Nothing. This is trouble, Mac.
Yeah, this is like the hangover from that dream they had Monday night about what could happen this season. And Zach Wilson's still Zach Wilson. You did have him put a ball right on Garrett Wilson, so Wilson had a long catch and run touchdown. So you're going to keep Garrett Wilson in your lineup, Zach Wilson. But, maybe you rethink, we're going to start Zach Wilson and we're going to look at someone like Colt McCoy who's going to be a backup. Yeah, well, I don't know. Because it is Dallas defense. Maybe you really all along were thinking you're going to bring in Joe Flacco, but you're not going to throw him to the Lions, the Wolves, the Dallas defense, right? They're out for blood. But you wonder what you have in Breece Hall now. Again, it's the Dallas defense, but still, it gives you pause. Next week is New England. Bill Belichick is not going to be merciful to Zach Wilson, right? Not merciful to the Tyler Conklin. That's your Tyler Higbee. Tyler's struggle targets, We'll see. It's tough. Watching the Cowboys cease, I can only think, how's Mike McCarthy going to mess this up? How's he going to mess it up? I can't wait. What do the writers have for us in the playoffs this year?
Yeah. What's the script for Mike McCarthy? And could he read it? Dak Prescott, 31 to 38. That was mean. Sorry, Joe. 255, 2 touchdowns, no INTs. Touchdowns are like this. Luke Schoonmaker. All their tight ends are the same.
Yeah.
Jake Ferguson, Schoonmaker. There you go.
Burger shot.
Chance, Ferguson, Schoonmaker, Niner. All those big tight ends got stuff. So good luck starting one of them. Stuff. You start CeeDee Lamb, 11 for 143. Obviously, you start Tony Pollard, 25 of 72 on the ground, 7 for 37 as a receiver. Obviously, we're waiting to see, hey, no Brandon Cooks. That could mean more Michael Gallup, 1 for 3. Okay, just could mean more of those tight ends that are kind of the same person.
Schoonferg Schotzenmaker.
Sounds like a German dish, right? Man, it's over there in Berlin. I had that Schotzenmaker.
Mitkost.
Awesome.
Mitkost. That's German for with cheese. Always with cheese. Dak to Lamb. Whew. What sauce? There's lamb, no sauce. Yeah. So not missing Kellen Moore. Jets defense not so scary. So, again, you can see the Raiders defense must not be that good if the Jets defense did this to the Bills and the Bills did what they did today. With Pollard, this is kind of a floor game. I mean, you're just loving what you have in Tony Pollard because we haven't seen him. Now, I mean, you almost want them to not use him up early in the season. Just give him 15 touches a game when the games are like this, right? I mean, even if it hurts your fantasy team, just because it's not that efficient yet, but he's so central in this offense, they're going to win games. And, good old fantasy aficionado, I'm going to use the word aficionado if I can say it. Again, it's a beautiful thing to have a classic stud running back, right? That is just the offense runs through him. But it's a really beautiful thing to have that stud running back on a team that wins 13 games, right? That gets your heart beating for fantasy. You just need Pollard to stay healthy. Rico Dowdell got a goal line carry, didn't look very good. Deuce Vaughn getting in there. If Pollard goes out, we'll talk about them, but may he stay healthy. This is kind of a big three, right? Remember the big three, the triplets in this? You got Lamb, you got Pollard, and you got Dak, and then you have Schoonferg Schotzenmaker.
Did you have to write that down so you could remember?
I did, and then leave it right here on my corner of my computer. Ferguson almost had 2 touchdowns at least. Geez, if you're Dallas, you want to play the Super Bowl next week. Well, you're playing in a stadium that hosts the Super Bowl sometimes in Arizona, but no, that's not going to be the Super Bowl.
You've waited an hour.
Oh,
we gotta tighten it up a little bit. We gotta tighten up a little bit. We're a little chatty today. Went a little long today.
yeah.
Okay, a little tighter. I can't
No,
tell you
but
to
we
lose
planned
weight.
on it so people, because we knew they were going to hang around for this.
Yes.
I mean, I would hang around for this.
Yes. And I feel like Jerry Maguire when he got fired. When he's like, I know y'all are expecting me to like lose my mind. Like, I'm not sure if I have it in me. I don't want to let you down. I don't want to let you down.
No.
Because
Just
this
natural. Yeah.
flipping sucks. K1 says switching to Sorry Joe Plus. That's right. It has to be on Sorry Joe
5
Plus.
second delay.
Broncos, Commanders have that delay going. Have the dump button ready. I said, so I did the war room on Thursday, and I was talking about how Sean Payton needs to trust the rookies, and I was like, yeah, I'm that huge doucher that wears sunglasses inside, and I got dumped. My producer in my ear was like, I dumped that. And I went to commercial. It's like, don't dump that when I call myself a huge doucher. Okay? Sorry,
Calling
Joe.
myself, it's okay.
Exactly.
It's like an ethnic joke if you're a member of the group. It's okay to tell it.
What are those kids? What about the kids? We were in the car and you said huge doucher. I had some splaining to do. Oh, fine.
Sorry, Joe.
Sorry, Joe. I really am sorry, Joe. I don't want to do this, but I feel compelled to lose my stuff. You're gonna look at the score, right? You're gonna look at Commanders and Broncos, and you're gonna be like, this is a close game. No, it wasn't. Like 35-33 the final score. Commanders win. Broncos are 0-2. Only the Bengals in the modern format have gone 0-2, made the playoffs in the modern playoff format. That's with Joe Burrow. Russell Wilson's not Joe Burrow. Why are you throwing 32 times with Russell Wilson? I know he went 308. He had 3 touchdowns, Hail Mary at the end, and Adam Troutman tried to grab on the 5. Like, Troutman, baby, like, you're on the 5. Don't try to grab the Hail. I got it, guys. And it bounces off his hands because, of course, it does. It's Adam Troutman. And it just careens to Brandon Johnson, and he catches it. So they get a chance to go for it at the end to tie it up and go into overtime. And there's no pass interference on Cortland Sutton because, of course not. Of course not. Sutton's this huge body, and I believe it was Benjamin St. Juste. So it was just like hanging all over him.
Yeah.
And I know Benjamin's pretty sizable as well. I liked him when he came in a Minnesota kid, right? Top of my head. Anyway, like, this is what you get when you don't trust the kids. Look at what Marvin Mims did early in this game. I'm skipping the Commander side. Sorry. We're going to get to the Commander side. Trust me, because we should. Sure. Like, Brian Robinson was significant. Terry McLaurin was significant. Jahan Dotson didn't do as much, but they still were just picking. They were even picking on Pat Surtain. Sam Howell don't care. Sam Howell's crazy. Like, he's that dude, man. You want Sam Howell in your corner in a fight because you just don't know what he'll do. He'll take his shirt off, whatever. He's prepared for anything. But, like, you don't go with Marvin Mims, who gets 2 for 113 and a touchdown, and then the second half, you just don't go to him. Jaleel McLaughlin gets a touchdown. It's beautiful, untouched in the end zone, and then you just don't go. He had 1 carry for a touchdown. And then you're running Russell Wilson. Russ can't run anymore, man. Designed run, RPO, yes. But if he has to take off and extend the play and it's just not there, like, no. Javonte looks fine, but 3.7 yards a carry, fine. Jerry Jeudy's back. Well, 3 for 25. First game back, I'll give him a little bit of a break, but, like, come on, man. Cortland, supposed to moss people, nothing. Brandon Johnson, couple of touchdowns. I love the kid. Kid's got some skill, but, like, no, man. So I feel like my heart, like, I've got to take it easy, Bloom. Like,
I'm going to join you, Elizabeth.
I've drank a Gamer Fuel today, and I can only drink one of those because I drink a lot of coffee. And if I put a Gamer Fuel on top of it, which is awesome, by the way, unsponsored, like non-sponsored endorsement. Like, I flipping love Gamer Fuel, but it also makes me go like, and that's how I feel about this team. Like fire George Payton, fire Sang Bassey playing safety, fire all this. Damari Mathis gone, Kareem Jackson. What are you doing? I know you're a captain. Guys love you. You can't headhunt anymore. Sorry. Like, so congratulations to Washington. Again, we got plenty to say about Washington. I'm not skipping the Commanders. Like, no disrespect whatsoever. Right. They went and they kicked their ass. And this game wasn't as close as the final scores. And Sean Payton, you better start riding herd on these guys because it's a little too loosey-goosey. It's a little too like, hey, it's okay. Like these guys don't know how to win. They were up by 20 some points with 2 minutes left in the first half, and they lose like this. It's pathetic, man. Pathetic performance. Except for the
Yeah,
kids. I love the kids.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. Marvin Mims, you still see even on the Hail Mary, Russell Wilson can still throw a nice big looping deep ball. So if you have someone who can run under it, that can be exciting. But like you said, Cease, the way they're deploying these guys. You did see, with the help of the Hail Mary, a good fantasy game for Wilson. We'll talk about Marvin Mims on the waiver wire show after we talked about him on the waiver wire show more on the negative side after week 1, even though Jerry Jeudy wasn't out there. Jerry Jeudy, like you said, Cease, maybe he'll do a little bit more, but just a little bit more. In this offense, Jerry Jeudy is not going to be worth anywhere near the 3rd or 4th round pick you spent before the hamstring injury. At least the hamstring injury got people off of him that early. He might not even be worth a 9th round pick. And the backfield, you saw there's the youngster McLaughlin with the touchdown, and then that's the carry he got. And P. Ryan and Williams, he's just not going to be there. There's not going to be consistency, maybe from Mims. If with Wilson, it's almost by accident because, like you said, Cease, 32 attempts, that's too much. That's not what the game plan should be if this team is going to win. But then there's also the problem of the defense. And there's also the problem of, Sam Howell's Baker Mayfield without the number 1 overall. They were comparing him to Baker Mayfield, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And like you said, this team plays for him. And you saw this team really make this Denver defense kind of turn and run in the second half. So I think you're right that there's a lot of questions here. And basically, to your point, this could get away from Sean Payton really quickly. And then, great. I mean, the Walmart heirs, they're going to stick with Peyton. They're going to stick him for a couple of years at least. This is an Urban Meyer, Bobby Petrino kind of thing. But what do you have custody of? What are you going to? How are you going to turn this thing around, Sean Payton? This is it. This is basically your chance. Because I don't think he was interested in like a 5-year rebuilding program here.
No, that's Caleb Williams. That's your chance. How do you get there?
Right.
Trade everybody.
You already did. Yeah.
Trade them again. Can we get the picks back so we can trade them again? Oh, George Payton's getting fired. Like, that's no doubt there. Like,
right.
And I'm not happy about that. I'm not happy when anyone in this league loses.
But you're going to go back to zero, Cease. You're going to go back to zero. Just let it breathe just for a second. Okay, because we're like doing stuff that you would do on the fan. But I'm interested, right? You're going to go back to zero with who? Who is actually the signature player of like the 2024, 2025 Broncos?
Nobody, because you're trading for Tan.
Right. It's gone.
You're trading Justin Simmons. Like,
it's not, it's tough. It's tough, Denver fans. But like, Cease, I thought of you because you said it's good when they're really good or really bad. In week 1, it wasn't either. So you were a little bit, I don't want to say disappointed, but it just didn't give you the, and now they're really bad. So we wait for the end. But yes. But with Washington, you saw Brian Robinson. We can talk about Antonio Gibson and who you should drop him for. Brian Robinson, this is how good he can be when he isn't shot a month before he plays his first game. Terry McLaurin, it was Denver's defense, but he still got his touchdown. And so they spread the ball around. Logan Thomas got a touchdown before he got lit up. 2-0, Washington with Buffalo coming. So we'll see how that matchup turns out. And next week, you'll get to cover Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami team that currently has Patriots fans booing their own team.
Tyreek Hill's going to go for 200
in the first half.
Again. There we go. We appreciate you all. I don't want to belabor things. And now, damn it, Bloom, I dummied up. Man. I can't believe this. I get going, get the show started. Like, I still have this show to edit, which is fine. Nobody cry for me. I'm not crying. But, like, I've got 2 shows to edit. I've got 2 articles to write. Like, I'm going to go till, like, 1 or 2 in the morning, which is normal for me. But I dummied up because I had coffee. I had my gamer fuel. And then I noticed I've been drinking a Mountain Dew this whole show. I'm like, oh, why is my chest hurt?
No, I'm not laughing here.
I did it for you guys. I did it for you.
It's rough.
Oh my God. All right. Anyway, we love you all. Help us grow the YouTube channel. Look at that, 231 people watching
This
live.
is great. Thanks.
Love it.
It's special. I want to say it again. I really try to clear my mind for a moment before we jump on and say, Cease, it's really special that we get to hang out and play football talkers with all these very kind, very smart people in our group. And every now and then something good happens or something happens that I think we all feel a connection and energy. And I'm so thankful to be part of this. And it keeps going now in year 18.
Yeah, you're 18. He's Sigmund Bloom. Follow him on socials at Sigmund Bloom. I am at Cecil Lammey. The show is at The Audible. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid here on YouTube. Watch all of our YouTube shows. Notification bell for everybody on this program. We love you all. Thank you.
It's punchy, man.
It's punchy time. That's right. Stay tuned and stay frosty.